Sticks, how do you feel about Shaq, Charles Barkley, and Stephen A. Smith's coverage of Anthony Davis and his head injuries?
I think it was. I think it was an ill taste. I think it was very much in distaste what they did as far as making fun of Anthony Davis. And now, I'm not going to say that. I've been talking about Anthony Davis, of course, off camera, off the pod, about how he's very fragile when it comes to like he's always injured. He's always injured. It's something with his back, something with his shoulder, something with his ankles, his knees. Something is always wrong with Anthony Davis. So the suspicion of the injury is warranted, so to speak, because something is always wrong with Anthony Davis. But I'm going to back Draymond Green on this whenever he said head injuries ain't nothing to play with. I played football. D-Lo played football. I've suffered multiple concussions in my football career. I'm pretty sure Delana's had a couple, one or two, maybe.
Not that I know of, honestly.
Not that you know of. Got you.
Nah, but I've had migraines and I know how they feel. So I can only
imagine
how they
feel.
Concussion.
So
feels.
With that being said, me knowing what a concussion feels like and actually having to go through quote unquote protocol, because protocol wasn't really around whenever me and Delon was still, not necessarily a protocol like the way it is now, but you had to go through different steps to be able to get back on that field. And I've been through a somewhat protocol back in my day whenever I played football. And concussions ain't nothing to play with, man. I mean, we've had people in the NFL, the most namely one, Junior Seau, who had CTE and took his own life because of CTE. And it's nothing to play with. I mean, I know basketball isn't as much of a contact sport as football, nowhere close to actually. But at the same time, whenever you get an elbow like he got from Kevon Looney, it was inadvertent, of course, but that makes it even worse because you don't see it coming. So it makes it worse. So it's like you got to take head injuries seriously. And of course, Shaq and Charles Barkley said they weren't laughing at, but they definitely were. But they were trying to make it sound like they were laughing at each other. But Stephen A. Smith went in on AD, and it was just an ill taste, man. And you gotta be able to take head injuries very, very seriously because just like Draymond Green said, man, one shake in the brain or one small hit can change your life. For sure, can change your life, man. What you think, D-Lo?
I mean, I would like to utter the same sentiments you did. We all know that Anthony Davis has a reputation for being injury prone, and it has become basically a laughing matter, a thing to joke about. But you can't really, like you said, you can't really joke about head injuries because you're right, and Draymond's right. One small head injury of any sort, you can knock something loose or disorient you enough to where it can alter your life for the rest of your life. And for them to be joking about it, and when I say them, I mean initially it was Charles and Shaq were joking about it on TV. And then, I mean, obviously, all of them were joking about it on TV, but it was Charles and Shaq joking about it on TV. It was just inappropriate and distasteful. And I know I've taken a stance of being on the softer side of everything, but I can take a joke. I can joke with the best of them here and there. But when you talk about head injuries, especially with Charles and Charles and Shaq being former athletes, everything was a bit more rough and rugged back when they played, a couple years ago, 20 years ago. But things have changed. Technology has advanced, as we all know, with the introduction of AI. Athletes are bigger, faster, stronger. We've taken different scans of the brain and looked at different injuries across all sports. And usually when we talk about concussions, we're talking about football. So, with all of that being introduced and all of that being looked at within the football community, and the severity of how it's being taken in the football community for these individuals across the board now, Charles, Shaq, and Stephen A, to sit on TV and laugh about it, when I know Chuck and Shaq don't really deal with it, but for Stephen A, who covers all sports, and how he takes it when, let's say, a Tua was knocked out, and how the severity of what he wanted to have the Miami Dolphins and the coach being punished for their lack of whatever the case is.
Urgency. Yep.
urgency, their lack of care, their lack of acknowledgement for when Tua got hurt. To see him be that out front about it, but then to turn around and make fun of Anthony Davis is kind of like, again, selective outrage. Because I think it's more so tied to the person and not the actual event.
I was just about to say that. I'm glad you said that. I
Yeah,
was about to touch on that too. It wasn't the fact that what happened to AD. It was because it was AD. And
right.
it seems like every week AD has a different injury. Something's wrong with him. In the games, you can see him grimacing, or he gets up off the ground, grimacing and wincing, and gets up off the floor slow, or something like that, and doesn't get down the court. Maybe might be limping every once in a while, grabbing his back. Something is always wrong with AD. I do agree with the candor that they have with his injuries. I do agree with that, because I'm one of those people that's like, he is so fragile, but. Have that same energy with AD's head injury that you had with Tua's, because your brain, you need your brain and your heart to live, my boy. So like, if he ain't got his brain and he's just a vegetable, what are you gonna be now? Like, your wrist, your ankle, your back, you can do things about that most times. But something more intrusive, you can push through that.
If it's not too bad, you can try to push through it, especially in the playoffs. And that's what Shaq was saying. Shaq was saying, but again, he was tying it to something like an ankle, like a foot, like a hand. He was saying, there's no way that I'm going to let a foot or toe injury keep me from playing in Game 6 of a playoff game. But we're talking about, like you said, we're talking about those type of injuries, of phalanges or joints. We're not talking about the brain, which can disorient you, which what we saw.
I'm sorry about laughing. This is, you said phalanges. That's so funny.
Yeah,
my bad. But go ahead. Your fingers and your toes. Yeah, fast.
Your fingers and your toes.
Nah, you good. It just caught me off guard. My bad. Yeah, but go ahead. My fault. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That was it, really. We're not talking about the brain, in which your cognitive ability comes from, which you use to distinguish and realize, okay, this is going on, I need to do this. If your foot is hurting, you still have the ability to say, oh, this is going on, I need to do this. Oh, my foot is hurt, I can't do it exactly how I used to do it if I was 100%. Let me let me do this. If your brain is not functioning properly, you can't go through all of that. You just out there, really. Yeah. So
yeah. So I really just think they didn't. It was definitely in distaste, and it was definitely just targeted towards AD and how many injuries that he's had throughout the year itself. Not even talking about his career, but just since he's been with the Lakers itself, he's always had some kind of injury. So that's why they call him, they call him street clothes. That's what his nickname is, street clothes, because he's always hurt and on the sideline in street clothes, because he has some kind of injury that's keeping him out of the game. But you can't call somebody street clothes whenever you're talking about a head injury, bro. Like that is something that's way more severe and way more serious than just going out there with a broken finger. I got broken fingers. I done broke fingers before. Both of my pinkies broken, but I played through that. But if I did, just like the line said, if I didn't have that cognitive ability to say, oh dang, my finger's broken, I need to tape it up so I can have it, I wouldn't be able to go through that process because my head is fucked up. So we just got to make sure that, everybody, not even just the sportscasters or the announcers or the analysts, we got to make sure that everybody understands that head injuries are serious. So that way, whenever somebody does have one, we can look at it like, oh damn, he needs some more attention. Because the wheelchair, if I'm stumbling too, put me in that wheelchair and push me out, bro, and sit me down somewhere. So I don't blame Anthony Davis. He is fragile, but the head injury is something different, bro. It's way different, dog.
Yeah. And not to go too deep into it and to be too complex about it, but I think just the older generation or the older era basketball players, football players, whatever the case is, the older era athlete just in general feels like new age athletes are super soft, and that they look for any type of way to get out of playing, especially with the type of money they're making. So with anything that they do, where it could be a head injury or whatever the injury is, they're looking for that time to say, these dudes are soft. We paved the way for them to make the type of money that they're making. And then you have basketball players that are load managing, or they don't want to give their all when the games are on the line and when it really counts. And I think while that is to some degree a fair assessment, I don't think you should use that as a catch-all for every injury and label every athlete as that, because there are some that do actually love the game. And we had this conversation about if 50% of the NBA actually loves to play it or not. We do. There are some that actually love the game and will do what it takes to play and push through it all. And then there are some that won't. And those that won't, they'll continue to collect their checks, and at some point in time that check won't come in anymore, and their legacy will be whatever it was when they first came into the NBA. Whereas the ones that love it, their legacy will continue to excel, and when they're long and gone, a la Michael Jordan and potentially LeBron James, once he finishes, their legacy will continue to be what it is, and inflate as they are removed from the game.
100%, man. And I'm a LeBron fan, so I'm pulling for the Lakers. So I need AD to be out there giving me 30 and 15. But if your head hurting, boy, if you got a concussion, sit your head down. Thank y'all for watching this video. If you've made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification bell so you miss none of the content. Also, you can find us on all the streaming platforms, wherever you find your podcasts.